You are listening to the Novel Writing Podcast, episode 138. I'm your host, Colleen Mitchell. Grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. To epilogue or not to epilogue? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer. Okay, I'll stop with the Shakespeareing for now. In all honesty, this episode was inspired by a client question about my thoughts on epiloguing. So I will gleefully admit that I am a sucker for epilogues after long multi-chapter fanfictions where I can get a happily ever after moment set months or years in the future after the closing scene. I've written such epilogues myself where I got the chance to wrap up storylines that never saw justice in the canon. But are epilogues necessary? Like most writing questions, it depends. Ultimately, if it comes down to it, no, epilogues are not necessary. However, they do provide authors the opportunity to zoom forward in time at the end of the book and present a scene of harmony or closure that can't fit into the final chapter, either because it's too far in the future, or the content has no real role in wrapping up the main plot of the book. Epilogues shouldn't be used at the end of a book that is part of a series. As a reader, I would be confused about why there's an epilogue on book 1 or 2 of a series that's 3 or more books, because an epilogue by definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is a final section that brings to an end and summarizes or comments on the action or characters of a story. In a series, the end of book 1 or 2 of whichever book that is not the final book has an open ending, as in there's an expectation that the overarching series arc has yet to complete, and an epilogue plopped in the middle of that kind of upsets the apple cart in terms of expectations. But at the end of a series? Have at it. The reason the epilogue for the Harry Potter series worked so well was not just because it was at the end of the 7th and final book, but it also took place in the far future, 19 years later, and it happened at King's Cross Station, the setting in all the books that represents passing from the Muggle or non-magical realm to the magical one. It was a full circle moment for every single reader because they started the series, in essence, at King's Cross, and J.K. Rowling left everyone there at the end. If you're struggling with deciding if you should include an epilogue or not, here are some questions to ask yourself about the story. Number 1, is your book a standalone or a series? If a series, which book in the series is it? Number 2, is the story itself resolved by the end of the final chapter? If not, don't use an epilogue to resolve it. Rework your final chapter so that it's all contained within the chapters of the manuscript. Epilogues are not for resolving plot. Number 3, do you expect readers will want to know about the characters' lives in the far future? Or maybe do you? Number 4, does your imagined epilogue solidly close out the series in such a way that readers will be satisfied? And number 5, why do you want an epilogue at all? I would say in special cases, an epilogue could be used to do a double whammy of providing closure for the first series and at the same time open up an opportunity for a sequel series rather than just another book in that series. Not in a way where you drop another cliffhanger on your reader at the end of the series, but more of a gentle curiosity for what might come later in the characters' lives, whether you write that sequel series or not. A good example of sequel series is Percy Jackson, where Rick Riordan didn't just write one sequel series, he wrote 2. Percy Jackson and the Olympians was the first series, and then Heroes of Olympus was the second, and then finally The Trials of Apollo. And he has other series that still take place in this mythological universe that have little itty-bitty ties to Percy Jackson, but I would consider those completely separate series. Now, I can't remember if the first series ended with an epilogue, but if it didn't, it could have, and it would not have detracted from the fact that there were 2 other entire series that came after it in the same universe with the same characters. Just remember that if you're going to do an epilogue, make sure it's at the end of a standalone or at the end of a series. And don't use the epilogue to tie up the actual story. The final chapter should be tying up the story. But if your story neatly finishes with the end on the last page of your last chapter, and inserting an epilogue seems to detract from it, you would lose nothing by skipping it entirely. There will be a companion episode to this soon on the other oft-maligned pseudo-chapter, the prologue. That's it for today's episode. If this has been helpful for you, I would appreciate it if you left a rating or review on your platform of choice. While it does nothing for me, it does help other writers find this podcast. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the first draft is supposed to be garbage. Thanks for listening to the Novel Writing Podcast. If you're ready to stop struggling and start finishing your novel, check out the 60-Day Novel Writing Challenge. It's a step-by-step program designed for solo writers to complete their first draft with clarity and focus. Visit the link in the description to learn more.